and do what you want to do. That's not why I'm here. I'm here for one reason only, and that's because Gandhi ma'am believes I have a story to tell, and I love telling stories. So I'm going to tell you my story over the past 10 years or so, and give you 6 lessons that I've learned. They might be applicable to you, might not be, but take away what you can. So lesson number 1 is always listen to the tingles. And tingles is a funny word, but you all know this sensation. I'm just going to reintroduce you to it again. So Indian parents are all about engineering or doctor, and then do what you want to do, which is also a lie. But I became an engineer first. I decided, okay, everyone's doing engineering. Dead fish swim with the sea. I was a dead fish. And my father said, this is a safe space, engineering. You can earn, you can be safe, you can raise a family. And I said, okay. I believed him, and I became a standard issue engineer. I graduated from Abhinav, don't boo me. I became an engineer eventually, and I worked at Tata as a design engineer. That was 2014. And I was really excited about my job because I'm the 4th generation working for the Tata family, and we didn't have big positions. We were very small people in Tata, as engineer, as electric engineer, right from my great-grandfathers. So I was happy, I was stable. But I used to have night shifts. So I used to come home late at night at 1 a.m. and I used to see dogs crossing the roads. And the next morning when I used to come back, I used to see the dogs dead on the road. And it used to eat me inside, you know. And like most of us, I said that this is how it is. I mean, that's just how it is. Vehicles go fast, dogs cross the roads, and they're going to die. But there was this tingle that kept going on inside me that did not allow me to settle down. And that tingle forced me, okay, at least if I'm going to give up on this, let me find out what's happening and then give up. So I talked to people, and it turns out that 90% of the dogs die because you don't see them on time. The dog crosses at the last minute, so either you swerve and you die, or the dog dies. So I found the problem. The dogs are not visible. And the solution was simple. I mean, just make the dogs visible. So I designed collars for them from denim pants and stitched reflective material on them. And I gathered a group of students. We were about 15 students. We pulled in money as students. And we made these collars which shine in the night when the headlight falls on the dog from a distance of about 400 meters. And it worked, to my surprise. It actually worked to the point where it blew up in the media so much than I had anticipated. And that's how much it blew up. I mean, the media wasn't even in our control anymore. Every other day I was getting links that you got featured here and you got featured there, and I was happy, okay, that's just a byproduct, but it's working. And then I got the call from Mr. Tata to come to Bombay because he had seen the project. And then I went to see him, and that was the first time I ever saw him. And he put in money into this organization, which is still funding that organization. And now we're spread across 15 cities in India. Every month we collar dogs that get seen in the night. So that happened, but the takeaway here, remember, was listen to the tingles. So you might come across problems, you might come across something you can do better. It can be business, it can be an idea, it can be social cause, but listen to it. In 2018, you cannot be around people who tell you this is impossible. Those are the most hazardous people you can be around. Because if you want to fail, then why don't you try it yourself and then declare that this will not succeed instead of someone else telling you who is not invested in your idea as much. So always listen to your tingles. Second lesson, go off-road, but first research. So this is for both parents and for... So go off-road is a very loosely used term these days where people say, be passionate about what you want, rebel and do what you want, and that's fine. I mean, I'm all for it. I did it, and I think other guests did it too. But you can't just go to your parents and say, Dad, I'm passionate about photography, I want to be a photographer. No, you didn't commit to it enough. When I went to my dad after my first year of job, I told him I want to do business because I feel passionate about it. And he said, no. So I said, why not? And he said, you're not invested enough. So I went back, I spent a month preparing this big fat file of which colleges are the best in the world, which colleges have the highest salary, which will make my father feel safe about it, where can I get accepted, which culture is suitable for me. And I prepared this big fat file and I sat down with my dad and I said, this is what I found out, these are the colleges I can go to, this is where you will feel safe if I go and it will be worth your money. And he said, okay, there are 8 Ivy Leagues in the world. If you get in any one of those, I will send you abroad. So by that time, there was only Howard and Cornell deadlines that were open. I applied to Cornell and I got in. But the point here being, I learned something from my dad that day, which is, if you want to be passionate about something, you can't just say you're passionate about it. You can't just say, I love singing, so I'm just going to sing. You got to prepare that big fat file for your parents because they have invested in you and they care for you. They're not stopping you from doing things because they're traditional. They're stopping you from doing things because they're scared about you. But in 2018, you can make them feel safe. You can prepare that big fat file that, Dad, I want to be a photographer. These are the magazines I can work for in the future. Here's what some people have done before. So why don't we explore this together? And parents, you better listen to them at that point because they put in that work. They put in that work, they committed. So you better listen and you better let them do what they have committed to. Because if they fail at that point, then it's because of reasons that are out of their control, and that's okay. So these are some questions that you should listen to about preparing a file. I think it's just there. Next. Blossom where you're planted. So this line I love a lot. I saw it in a couple of movies, I don't remember which. So it's basically, what it means is if a flower is a blossoming flower, you plant it in Kothurud, KP or wherever. It doesn't say I want to blossom only in KP. It will blossom in the worst of places in Pune also. It doesn't choose where to blossom. Wherever it's planted, it will blossom. And I was planted at Cornell, and there were so many opportunities to blossom that I decided to use all of them. And to Gandhi ma'am's point before, this is a Financial Times research that says that you can be 6 different people in one lifetime, and they don't have to be connected. You can be a lawyer and then a doctor and then an engineer. There are 6 professions that one single human can do given today's technology and inspiration. So if you can be 6 people, at least try 2 or 3. And I decided to be all these people. I started the Motorcycle Association. I was a part-time musician earning some pocket money. And I participated in every case competition. I did everything. So anyone who tells you there's only 3 things you can do out of 10, tell him I will do 15 and I will show you how to do it. You have everything it takes to do it. Just don't shortlist things because you think you can't do them. Just go ahead and do 15 of them. And to the point of blossom where you planted, when I entered in the summer of 2017, when I was at Cornell, I was getting paid $500 a month, which was the lowest in the history of my institution, to the point where they called me into their office and they said, you don't have money, how are you getting by through the summer? Do you want money from the college? And I said no, because I had chosen to work with Tata Group on building this animal hospital, and I was really excited about this opportunity. But they told me that we will give you an Indian salary, even though you're in the US, because we are an Indian company. And I said, okay, because I wanted the project. And I worked on that 500 per month, and I gave it my all. I blossomed. Like I stayed up nights, I prepared presentations, I gave the presentations, I provided proactively more amount of data, whatever was needed to build this hospital, which is still getting built. And at the end of 3 months, my boss goes back to India and calls me from there and says, we are giving you $30,000 as endowment for your financial reasons and for your educational purposes. That's nothing to clap about. At that point, I realized that I did not know I'm going to get $30,000, but I gave that position my all. Not only did I get the experience that I wanted, I earned more than all my counterparts, which I don't want it to sound like an achievement, but I'm saying that in situations starting now, after your 10th, you might feel like you're not in the best place, you're not in Ferguson, you're not in the top 3 colleges where your cool friends are, but make the move. I was in Uptate Kashala, and I had to wear a blue shirt, and I hated it because all my cool friends were in Ferguson. I was in denial the whole time. I did not go to college. It was the worst. But eventually I decided to accept it, and I blossomed, and I'm here now, and that's what all of you should do. Keep the circle small, but love enormous. This is a two-way relationship. Sit down with your kids and try to understand that in 2018, how do kids evolve? And kids understand that your parents cannot change their generation now, but you are the evolving generation, so you can sit down and make your parents understand that this is what goes in 2018. You don't have to raise your voices and have a fight about it. You can just sit down and have a mature conversation, and I'm sure they can listen. And about the country's roots, I came back, and I was just asking the other chief guest when she came back and why she came back, and I think we have the same reasons for it. You can go abroad, you can get that education, MS, MBA, eventually you can earn millions, and you can stay there in the clean air and developed streets and fancy New York Times Square. You can make that choice and nobody will judge you for it. It's all about what you want. But if somewhere in your mind you have that doubt that you want to come back for whatever reason, which might be a pull towards your home, it might be a pull towards what you want to do here, do not be ashamed of the fact that you went there and came back. I was shamed when I chose to come back from Cornell. All my Indian counterparts were like, then why did you come here in the first place? Or some people decided to tag me as unsuccessful. But you have no idea how happy I am to be back. But then again, this is only if you feel that. If you want to live there and if you want to contribute there, that's fine. But never ever forget your roots, because you can live anywhere you want in the world. You cannot change where you were born, and that's here. So don't forget that you were born here, and don't forget that in some capacity you will have to eventually give to this place sometime. And you can do it from there, that's okay. But don't forget this place. And this is my final original story, and I can't emphasize this enough, because the moment there's a news in the Marathi newspaper that somebody from IIM got a 43 lakh package, everyone will flock towards that, all the Indian parents. You know what I'm talking about. So you will go to the extent of saying he was wearing a yellow shirt when he gave that exam, you wear a yellow shirt. Don't copy the story to that extent, because every time you're asking your kid to be like Bill Gates or any of the big CEOs, you're kind of missing out on creating a story that might have been heard, but now it's just a replica of this story. The reason I'm standing here is because my story is different. If it was anything like this, I wouldn't be here. And for you kids, don't compare yourselves to them and justify your actions. All three of them were dropouts. You don't need to drop out to be a successful person. You can complete your education and do it. If you do drop out, that's fine. Not really, but. My point is, I realized this lesson when I was sitting in my office one day, and my colleague resigned because he wanted to move to another city. He was a design engineer. Then he received that traditional, this is emotional, and this is for all of you guys, that graduating from 10th, now you might feel that you need to have this 15, 16 people group that you hang out with. I used to hang out in McDonald's and CCD, and I used to be desperate to be invited because I wanted to be among the cool kids, among the pictures, and now you have Instagram, so I can just imagine the social pressure. But my point is, that 15, 16 circle is probably not the circle that's going to last over the next 5 years. You, I think, already know and are aware of 3 or 4 people who are going to stick with you the rest of your lives from school, and you might not have found those people yet, and that's okay, you might find them later. But keep those people close and invest in those relationships. And for me, those 3 people were Mr. Tata, who is now my bestest friend, my dog, who I adopted at Cornell, and my other bestest friend who I started making films with 6 years ago. These are my only 3 people who I can call as inner circles. So I have a lot of friends I can hang out with, have dinner with, and that's fine, you can have those too, but identify who those 3 or 4 people are in your life. I listen to their problems. I am always there. They are always there for me. I take updates of their life. I give them updates of my life. I put in the time, I put in the love, and I put in the emotion to make sure that they know they are my inner circle. So if you know 3 or 4 of these people, don't invest yourself in that 15 people group who will replace you as soon as the next good person comes along. And you know you're doing that. So keep that in mind. Never forget your roots. So I went to New York, but I'm here. And those are my 4 generations where I came from. All of them worked for the Tata family in some small capacity. Like my great-grandfather worked for the Tata hydroelectric plant in Bira and so on. And these are my parents. And one lesson to take away from the roots part is never ever hurt your parents, I swear. I mean, you might be in the rebel phase, but don't hurt your parents, because you will get nowhere in life if you hurt your parents. Success just leaves you if you hurt your parents. If they have made you feel like you're struggling in a phase right now, there's a reason behind it. Try to understand that reason. And your batch is so much more mature than mine ever was. All I cared about when I was graduating on this day is, will I buy a Honda Activa or a Dio? And I got a Kinetic that was 20 years old. So that didn't work out. But my point being, don't hurt your parents. They're doing. His chair was taken by another design engineer. And I thought to myself, if I disappeared off the face of the earth today, what will I be remembered for tomorrow? And that was nothing. I would be replaced just like that. A cake is all you will be remembered by. That's not done. If you disappear tomorrow, there will be some story, some legacy that you leave behind. And it doesn't have to be social cause. It has to be something you want to make, you want to create, you want that story to live on. And hopefully someday, one of you will be standing here and Gandhi ma'am will call you and say, you have a great story, why don't you come and tell it? So congratulations to all of you, and best of luck for everything. Thank you.